Hello, fictional. Welcome to the Fiction Series X. Today we are gonna see what if Issei was a pure-blooded dragon. The movie. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Prologue. Before life. In the beginning, there were only two. The dragons that are infinity and dreams. What if there was actually a more powerful, sentient being? Magladrith is sentient. The dragon of void, the existence before light. The all-powerful being was a force of pure void. In the limitless dimension of darkness, where here is where the being brought everything to life. In order for life, there needed to be a domain. This created the universe. At first, the plan was to not give independence to the universe, but somewhere along the line of the creation of a giant energy source, it blew up. This became the phenomenon known as the Big Bang. Angered, Magladrith flew into a rage, tearing rips in the space-time continuum. Unknowingly, the dimensions, null, underworld, and heaven, were created. This came along with a near-void creation known as the dimension gap. The dimension gap was a nearly endless field of infinite space. Sometime, the infinite space began to manifest itself into a being of energy. Taking after the creator, formed a dragon, known as the Dragon of Infinity. The office. Magladrith decided that the energy of infinite was too great, so he created a countermeasure. This became known as the Dragon of Dreams. The endless possibilities presented in the universe fueled the power of this creature, putting it on equal footing to the dragon god of infinity. Great Red. Satisfied with its creation, the dragon of void went into resting, all the while releasing energy to sustain life in a certain sector of the universe. This conveniently allowed the energy to start creating life with the first creations of dinosaurs. What most did not know is that the creatures were accompanied by the close sentient beings of dragons. There were 16 original dragons. This consisted of the two heavenly dragons, Ddraig and Albion. Along with these were the dragon kings, Tiamat, Yulong, Vritra, Midgardsormr, Bahamut, Tannin, and Fafnir. Finally, the evil dragons, Krom Kruich, Ai-Da-Ka, Apophis, Grendel, Yamada Noarachi, Ladin, and Nidhogr. Ddraig was the dragon of domination and had the power to burn everything in his flames. However, one day, the flames had hit the heavenly dragon of vanishing. Albion's scales had deflected the flames, amusing Ddraig. Happy that they had rivalry for each other, they started to compete at high levels of fighting, to the death. They were sworn as arch-rivals. They fought for centuries on end. Even after the apocalyptic event of the dinosaurs perishing and the Great War of the factions, the dragons fought. This got the factions of Heaven, Hell, and the Grigori to band together and seal the dragons that would eternally fight. With the power from the combined forces, they were able to send the dragons into inherited created powers called sacred gears. These were powerful artifacts created by the overflowing energy of the void to enhance and give powers to people. At once, peace was at hand. However, the tension from the Great War lasted and the grudges between the forces stayed. 100 years before the Great War, Bahamut, the dragon king of goodness, fell in love with Tiamat. They had a child known as Shiryu, who became a very powerful dragon of strength. Shiryu was a deciding factor in the Great War, being able to wipe angel battalions within minutes. After the sealing of the heavenly dragons, he ascended to the dimension of Null, or Earth, the center point and null energy of the universe, and married Elverg, a green dragon of quests. They had one child, a son. Unbeknownst to them, this dragon would become the dragon of victory. Hyoudou Issei. Dragon's Haven, Hell. Shiryu, your wife is in labor. The voice of the dragon doctor could be heard. Elverg. I must go now, my child is waiting. The dragon was in a conference with the elders about the next dragon hearing, which contained concerns, specifically those of the two heavenly dragons. The dragon king Fafnir could sense the sacred gears of the two begin to arise at the same time. Shiryu flew to the location where he could sense his mate. Landing with a great heave, he ran to his wife. Her wife was lying back down and had dragons around them. The procedure went as is. First, the mother was given a numbing dragon fruit, causing them to fall asleep. Sensing the sleep, the dragon child starts to push its way out. After the extraction, the dragon is washed in a lake of crystal water and set on a bed of grass to dry. Luckily, the birth was successful with no casualties. Shiryu fell to his knees in human form and cried. Tears of joy escaped his eyes and he felt the most alive he could ever feel. Minutes later, Elverg woke up. My love, we have a beautiful baby boy. He is very much like his grandfather. Elverg said, weakly. She was ecstatic but extremely tired from the fruit and birth. He is going to be strong. He will be the dragon of victory. What should we call him? Shiryu was still crying, looking at his newborn son. He was similar to his grandfather. He had a white body with a black underbelly. His claws were dull, as he is a newborn and still bore no fangs. The most peculiar things were his eyes. One was a crimson red, another silvery white. Issei. Issei Hyoudou. That was all his father said. He had named him after his late father's wish, with the last name of their human inherited name. With one more look at his son, he made a choice. His son was precious. The most precious thing to him. With a steely look, Shiryu gave his son to his mate and flew back in the direction of the Order of Dragons. Dragon Haven, null. At the same time, in a hidden province in Korea, another baby dragon was born. A rarity of dragons, a female, was brought into this world. However joyous the moment should have been, was disrupted when a golden sword buried itself into her mother, only to fly through her and stab her father. Amazing. Ascalon truly is a dragon slayer. With this many dragons dead, this should be enough. The voice came from a fallen angel, Kakabiel. On the grass bed of the dragon, a cry was heard. The beautiful voice of the dragon was sounded. The baby kept on wailing and wailing. The mother dragon was mortified. As a last-ditch attempt to save her daughter, she sent her to a friend in a whole nother dimension. Yunajin. Be safe, my precious daughter. Dragon Haven, hell. You cannot be serious. This is impossible. We still need you. The Council of Dragons spoke in a frantic way. They were surprised that Shiryu, the great warrior, was leaving. They were given the announcement that he was leaving, and this made them concerned. Of course they interrupted before he could clarify. My son has been born. Speaking ever so bluntly, the great dragon clarified his situation. This is indeed important. We will allow it. However, there is a condition. The voice that had not spoken before was heard. This was the elder of the Dragon Haven in Hell. A former dragon king, Tannen, now a devil, voiced his thoughts. Tannen was a purple and golden yellow dragon that stood in a humanoid way. He was also turned devil. Okay, I accept the condition. The young dragon accepted, but he was also wary of his choice. Tannen motioned to a dragon near the entrance of the cave. The dragon flew out of the cave, minutes later came back. He had a pakage in his hand, it was strange crystalline. Earlier, we received a teleportation from the null dimension. It was a transportation spell, specifically used by a powerful dragon. Tannen spoke about the object that was being carried. It was a small crystal blue creature. To be specific, a dragon. It gave off a distinct unidentifiable aura. We received this hatchling a while ago. We asked around the haven for dragons that would take care of it, but most were busy nursing their already growing hatchlings. Basically, since you and your wife will not have duties for a while, we want you to nurse this young one along with your recent hatchling, as his future mate. After all, your child is the first one to hatch in years. The only thing found in her memory is a voice saying Yunajin. Tannen clarified the situation to Shiryu and explained how this benefits the dragon race. He had also hit a weak spot. As a dragon father, he wishes to see his son live a happy life and fall in love. The problem was that there was no dragon near the birth date of young Issei. I will do as you say. It will also be concerning if a young hatchling were to grow up alone, they may becoming evil. As Shiryu said this, the council shuddered. The power of an evil dragon is said to rival even those of Tannen, an original dragon king. Shiryu took the young dragon into his hands, the dragon woke up. The crystal blue eyes of the young hatchling were beautiful. It reminded him of his grandmother. Shiryu flew out of the cave with the hatchling and flew to his cave. Inside, wailing of a dragon could be heard. Hearing this, Shiryu smiled. He had not only a son, but another hatchling to look after, and this one was to be his son's mate. Shiryu walked in and saw his mate breastfeeding the young one. When Ddraig saw the crystalline dragon, she smiled. Being Shiryu's dragon queen, she understood via telepathy. I understand. Bring her here. She and Issei will get along. What is her name? Ddraig was a gentle with a baby, and Yuna also latched onto her breast. Yunajin. She is from the null dimension, specifically Korea. Ddraig smiled. Then a thought crossed her mind. It was planned that she and her family were to leave for the null dimension in about 4, a good suburban area in Japan. It was called Kuo. There, the children would grow up in a normal human environment. It was risky, as the protection of the haven was no longer available. The reason that they were not leaving was because of dragon education. Dragon education was a system in all of the dragon havens. Its name spoke for itself, an education for new hatches. They were to go to school from ages 1 to 4. In dragon years, 1 year to a dragon was 2 Earth years. This is simply because dragons mature faster. They become more independent and stronger sooner, and they need to be able to control that strength, hence dragon education. Starting tomorrow, the dragons would be sent to education. Of course they come back every night to their parents. Shiryu looked at his family in glee and turned to the entrance to the cave. The sun was setting, giving off a golden light, even in hell. Streaks of dark red could be seen throughout the sky. One thing still remained in his mind. What happened to Yuna's family? Time skip, 4 dragon years, 8 Earth years. Hold on. The voices of a young boy and a girl were heard outside of a dragon cave. After growing 4 dragon years, both the children could run, talk, and fly. Issei excelled in these, whereas Yuna was a bit slower, albeit still faster than regular. They had also unlocked their human forms, as dragons need to hide in other societies. Issei was a small child with brown hair. At the end of his hair, a small band to hold his length. He was tall for his age, and because of dragon training, and dragons' generally good body structure, was stronger than an average 8-year-old boy. His facial structure is still called cute, but his eyes were special. They were alluring, giving off a sense of deepness and power. Yuna was small, with deep blue, long hair. She was also tall, but a couple of inches shorter than Issei. She was also strong, but in a different sense. Her magic ability was tremendous, even stronger than Issei at certain magic. She was a bishoujo, good-looking girl. Her eyes were a sky blue color giving feelings of endless oceans. Right now, they were flying to the Dragon Academy, a system of caves a couple of hours of travel away from their home. In their situation, they could be mistaken as a young couple. Issei was carrying Yuna like a princess, and she was blushing and complaining. However, the true reason was that Yuna did not get enough sleep and ran out of energy to fly. Issei offered to carry her, and without waiting for an answer, he lifted her and flew at high speeds. For the two of them, the moment his silvery and crimson eyes set onto her sky blue eyes, they clicked. They would always get along, no matter what happened. Whenever they would fight, they would laugh it off. When one was upset, the other was support. They were best friends, and without them knowing, maybe even more. Another thing was that Yuna was an adopted dragon. She knew that she was not birthed by Issei's parents. She could tell that she was discriminated against in their haven. The other dragons were either afraid or mean to her. This led her to be especially clingy to Issei. Issei was the light to her, and she would always be by her side. By the time they learned about the peerage system, she promised to be his queen. At one point, she was depressed, as she knew nothing of her heritage. However, Issei, her prince in her eyes, lifted her spirits. They were always seen together since then. Issei was never bothered that she was not of the same haven as him. In fact, Issei once got in trouble in their 3rd year of dragon education when he got into a fight with a group of bullies making fun of Yuna. He fought them and beat them, but this led to him to get spanked 100 times by his mother. Even though he was sore after it, Issei would always smile through it, unknown to him, it made Yuna's heart flutter. They landed at the entrance and walked in. Issei set Yuna on the ground and she grabbed the hem of his shirt. They reached the graduation room and knocked. They waited for it to open and talked with each other. The graduation ceremony gives a dragon freedom from education and their peerages are given. The peerage system is different of the ones directly from devils. Like the devils, the pieces can reincarnate any species, but the dragon pieces and even reincarnate angels. The amount of pieces that you can get in each category is dependent on the amount of promise you show as a dragon. This is determined by a dragon mage who looks at the sacred gears of the dragon, if they have one. If they don't, usually the standard peerage is given. Another part of the ceremony is a spell that removes the limiters on their gears, strengthening the sacred gears in them. How many pieces do you think you will get? This question came from Yuna. She was an inquisitive one and was also very smart. Thus we'll find out. Look, the door is opening. The great door creaked open and as they walked in, they were forced into their first dragon forms. Issei was a white dragon, 3 horns along his head. He stood on 2 feet and his stomach was black. His eyes stayed the same color, but their eyes grew sharper. His wings were a good large size, extending out of his back. Issei looked like his grandfather, minus the eyes. Yuna was a deep blue dragon, with a blue chest. Her body as a dragon was particularly curvy. Her eyes stayed the same color and her eyes also grew sharper. She was also standing on 2 legs and her wings were a sky blue color coming out of her back. They flew to stage. Today, they were one of 4 dragons there. There stood Issei, Yuna, a dragon named Ryu, and another from China, named Ling. They were all graduating today and as there was a shortage of dragons, there weren't any more. Ryu and Issei had a bad history together but when it comes to it, they are friends. Ling has an obsession with Issei and is madly in love with him, but Issei either never noticed or never cared. Ling and Yuna also have a rivalry, mainly for Issei, but he was oblivious. Today, we will have you dragons become independent. You have all proven yourselves in the arts of a dragon and learned to use your power for peace and honor. Now we would like to know your future goals. The head teacher spoke with a booking voice and motioned for people to step up. I wish to bring peace between dragons and other species. This was Ling. She was shown to be a pacifist throughout their training. I wish to become the strongest dragon and bring us back to our former glory. Ryu was pretty arrogant but valued respect over everything. I wish to find out about my past and become a strong dragon for those I care for. This was Yuna. She had always wanted to find out about her past. I wish to become a symbol of strength for dragons, become the harem king, and protect those I love. Issei, ever so passionate about his dreams, yelled it with enthusiasm. Although Nobel, a secret known fact was that both his father and grandfather were closet perverts and wished for Issei to become the harem king. Issei found the idea great, although not really understanding. He just thought it would give him a chance to protect those he loved. Yuna and Ryu sweat dropped while Ling's eyes gleamed. Yuna because she is surprised that even though he wants a harem, he doesn't notice her and Ling, and Ryu because of how serious he is at a ridiculous goal. Ah, thank you. We will now proceed with the spell to release your powers. The mage stepped up and started a spell. The energy around them started to gather between his hands and then he blew on it. It shattered into golden dust, which flew onto the dragons. The dragons all felt a boost of power and some started to glow. Issei and Yuna glowed bright and then the light went out. Issei grabbed his head in pain and grinded his teeth. His head spun for a second until it all stopped. He let out a cry and calmed down. The pure blood. The pure blood. What the hell? These voices all sounded in his head. The powerful dragons in the room could hear the voices and their expressions were shocked. The things that gave it away the most was the fact that he was in the human form again and the fact that there were 2 gauntlets on each of his arms and a black chest plate on his chest. His left gauntlet was red with a green gem, his right was white with a blue gem. His chest plate was black with a purple gem. Ddraig. Albion. What is going on? How is this even possible? Also, how is this boy's body not collapsing? Well, Ddraig. I guess fate has it that we are to share a body. Appears so, Albion, old friend. The Beepizer stepped up and checked Issei for damage. He then, with a shaky voice, checked his sacred gears. Boosted gear along with Ddraig, divine dividing along with Albion, prison gate along with Vritra. There was silence. Pure silence. Not even a pin drop was heard. Ahem, please continue. The Beepizer next went to Yuna. Cascading tear, reincarnation of Tiamat. It was a good result, but they were more surprised with Issei. The other 2 had no sacred gears. One thing that sparked interest is that Yuna was the reincarnation of Tiamat, who is Bahamut's mate, who happens to be Issei's grandfather. Yuna read up on history, so she knew this. To say she was ecstatic was an understatement. This meant she could be in a relationship with Issei, especially if history repeats itself. The peerage section will now commence. The head teacher commanded the last phase of the graduation ceremony. Ryu, 17 pieces, 1 mutation. Ling, 17 pieces, 1 mutation. Yuna, 19 pieces, 3 mutations. Issei. There was a pause because of an abnormally high number of pieces. 25 pieces, 9 mutations. How? As expected of my Issei. These not yours. The first came from Ryu, with jealousy, the second from Ling, with pride, and the third from Yuna, with annoyance. We will now let you go home. A conference will be held with all your parents about the ceremony and what to expect with your released powers. The teacher ended the ceremony and the children left the room. Issei and Yuna, who was still exhausted, left the cave. Once again, Issei took Yuna in his arms. Issei, can we stop by the mountain? I intend to keep my promise. Yuna was nervous and excited at the same time. After all, one of her dreams was to join Issei as his first queen. Issei stopped at their favorite mountain and let her down. Issei remembered the promise and got a queen piece out. Are you ready? Yes, Issei. I wish to stay with you forever. Okay, let's do this. Issei entered the king piece into his chest. He held the queen to her heart and started the chant. I, Issei Hyoudou, give you the power of victory. From here and forever, you shall serve me as my precious queen. Join me in my peerage and family. The piece entered her body and spread a warmth throughout her body. It made her gasp and give off a tiny moan. Kawaii. This was the word that went through Issei's mind. He didn't notice it earlier, but she was pretty. Finally, thank you, Issei. She was gleaming with joy and she even jumped on Issei, making them have ab embrace. Usually Yuna was shy, but the seal releases her inner personality. Tiamat was always known to be mischievous, and it was showing. She straddled him and gave his cheek a lick. It was a really affectionate thing for dragons, so Issei was surprised, but inside he liked it. He smiled and hugged her close. Throughout the heartfelt moment, one thought crossed his mind. My harem is starting. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. He shits you not, old friend. Ha. I think this is great. The dragons, Issei, and his family were in for a ride. Dragon Haven, hell. The council was in session. News got around that there was a young dragon that possessed 3 powerful sacred gears, and that wasn't the only thing about him. His 3 gears include the Red Dragon Emperor and the White Dragon Emperor. This was the topic they were discussing before, 4 years ago. Fafnir had felt the two gears surfacing, but he did not know if they would surface in the same place. To say the least, it was a shock. Tannen, who was like a grandfather to Issei during his education, was particularly concerned about his body. With the gears released, his body may start to collapse as the powers of the emperors conflict with each other. The one hopeful thing was the Vritra gear. Being a third-party dragon, Vritra could help Issei learn to keep them in line. He wasn't the prison dragon for no reason. Go get Shiryu. He must know about his child's future. Tannen sent a messenger to receive Shiryu. It was the day before they would move to Kuo. They would have to stay in their human forms, not that they minded, and the children have been educated with human ethics. Tannen was also concerned about Yuna. He was worried that Tiamat would awaken in her soon and she would get too curious with her past. After all, she knew nothing of her origin. The messenger walked in with a worried parent in tow. Shiryu was always doting to his children, Yuna included. Is there an issue? Are my children okay? Is the dragon world going to be flipped upside down? Tell me please. Shiryu was not the brightest when he was worried. Tannen's sweat dropped and calmed him down. For the first question, yes. The second question, also yes. For the last one, where the hell did you get that from? Tolerance was not his strength. Especially of his stupidity. A few minutes later, things were settled down and Shiryu was in his human form. You have heard that Issei has 3 sacred gears, right? Boosted gear, divine dividing, and prison gate. If this is about Ddraig, Albion, and Vritra, I know. Issei has told me. I plan to train his body to withstand the conflicting powers in him. Shiryu was well informed about the 2 powerful gears and knew where the conversation was going. So I assume you also know that Yuna is the reincarnation of Tiamat. Make sure to keep her under control as well. Do this, Shiryu nodded, he knew that Issei would keep her in line. Is that all? If so, I will prepare to go to the Devil train station, it is almost time for us to go. Tannen nodded yes, and Shiryu left the cave. Flying at a high speed, he sped towards his cave. Shiryu's cave. Yuna what the? Issei woke up in a strange position this morning. He was on his bed of grass, like normal, but the difference was that Yuna was in the bed with him. That wasn't the only thing. She was naked, in her human form. Wah. Apai. The closet pervert thoughts came out and blood rushed to his face. Issei, good morning. Yuna good morning. Ara, does Issei like this way of greeting? Yuna, ever since her limiters were loosened, became much more aggressive. She liked to force herself onto Issei and search affection. She gave him a lick on the cheek and blushed. If you're going to be in that form, please put some clothes on. Yuna pouted and said something along the lines of Baka Issei. She got dressed and gathered her belongings. She took a bath in the lake before and prepared to leave. After all, today is the day that they leave for Kuo. Issei was ecstatic, he always liked the null dimension. Specifically the blue skies. They gathered their belongings and stood with Elverg. She was also in her human form. They sprouted their dragon wings and flew towards the station. They still had about an hour left to get to the station, so they flew relatively slow. They flew over the devil cities and saw some of the young devils playing. They flew over a castle. This was known as the Gremory Castle. Here, the son and daughter of the Mau were living. News told them that the son, Serziches, was getting ready to take over for his father. As they flew over, Issei excitedly glanced around the city. That's when Issei saw it. There was an explosion near the station. Yells and cries were heard, along with the sound of devil magic. Being the headstrong protector that Issei was, he rushed to that direction, despite the cries of his mother. Yuna dashed behind him to stay with her king. She was also concerned about Issei, as devil magic is powerful. But the thud Issei landed in the center of the smoke. Using his dragon vision, he looked in the smoke and could make out 17 figures. 14 of them were standing around one that was collapsed on the ground. Those same 14 stood up and attacked 2 others, one was very small and the other a little shorter than Issei's height. The magic chant could be heard and Issei rushed to stand in front of the 2 lone figures. Stop. Issei yelled this at the top of his lungs. He would not stand around and watch people gang up on others. Time froze for Issei. He was sent into a white dimension where he saw 3 towering figures. Do you want power, child? The protect is what you seek. We will give it to you. Reach out for the power. You know what to do. Then trade, I will occupy your right arm. Sacrifice your left and we will give it to you. Your heart will become mine. Come now, child. At your current power, you will be able to hold it for 1 minute. I know what to do. I want to protect. I must give me your power. Issei was sent back into the real world and he screamed. Silver, crimson, and purple miasma flowed out of his body. On his right arm sat a silver gauntlet, on his left a crimson one. On his chest was a black breastplate. Boosted gear. Divine dividing. Prison gate. Divide. 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 The white gauntlet reduced the devil spells into nothing and Issei absorbed the power. Then his prison gate started to activate. The devils were held in a black flame and could not move. Boost. 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 A blast of orange energy charged up on Issei's left arm. Then it blasted forward and launched the devils into the air a mile away. While this commotion occurred, the smoke cleared. The whole Yuna could not see Issei and when he could he saw him standing, hunched over. The gears dissipated and he dropped to his knees. However, he did not just stand around. He got up and with his remaining energy, he walked over to the two cowering figures. Before he could do anything, the shorter figure ran away. With his powerful eyesight, Issei saw her run into a crimson-haired girl. The other figure was too weak to chase after the shorter one. She did not collapse however and looked up from her sitting position. Issei looked into her eyes and saw fear. He knew he had to be gentle. "Are you okay?" Issei asked this softly with a sincere look in his eyes. Looking closer at her, he saw cat ears and a tail. She had black hair and was very cute. She was a little shorter than Yuna and appeared to be 8 human years old. He deduced that she was a Nekashu. "Can you talk?" "Yes." The girl was still afraid and Issei saw this. She looked like she needed rest and as she was about to get up, she fainted into his arms. Using his Kai, Issei started to heal her. Dragons have a special powerful Kai, which works any race. Her wounds closed and she snored cutely on her lap. Yuna landed next to Issei and she saw the sympathy in his eyes. "Are you alright, Issei?" She had a slightly angry expression, but it was mostly due to the cute cat girl in his embrace. "She should come with us. I think she is in danger and she is being hunted." Issei ignored the jealousy on Yuna's face and patted her on the head. This made Yuna happy and she lost their scowl. Time skip 1 hour. Issei was in trouble. Big trouble. When his mother heard of what he did, he was quick to get yelled at. Not only did he cause a large crater in a small part of the Devil City, he also brought a new guest with him. His mother could not fathom how Issei could destroy a part of the town and trouble another devil. The family had made it to the train station, meeting up with his father, Shiryu. When Shiryu saw the state that Issei was in, he couldn't help but crack a smile. His son was taking after him and his grandfather. Although, when he saw the scowl on his mate's face, he knew he should hide his smirk and punish his son. He was about to take action when he saw that Issei had a small girl in his arms. Shiryu was crying tears of joy when he saw his son pick up yet another girl. For this, Shiryu was smacked by Elverg. Whack. Ooh. Recovering from the smack, he corrected his posture. "Issei, who is this?" He pointed at the girl that lay in his arms. "I don't know, father. She was being attacked by a group of devils. I interrupted her fight and she collapsed on me." Issei told his story and Shiryu put his hand on his chin as if he was thinking. As he pondered the situation, the train they needed to board docked at the stop. They took their packed items and walked into the train. Issei, deciding that it was important for the girl to stick with them, brought her along. "Attention all passengers. The trip to the null dimension will take about 1 hour. Please make yourself comfortable. Enjoy your trip." The overhead speakers sounded the announcement and the train started moving. The family got a room and sat down. They laid the girl on the bench with her head on Issei's lap. The rest of the family went right to sleep. A few minutes passed and the girl started to stir. Her eyes fluttered open and she groggily yawned. "What happened, Naya?" She looked at her surroundings and then looked up. She stared at a pair of red and white eyes and they stared back. "Sleep well?" After that question, she jumped up and onto the floor. She scurried sway from Issei, only to notice that she was not injured anymore. She blinked, startled that she was not only alive but well. "As you can see, I heard your injuries. Allow me to explain what happened so far. You and another little one was being attacked and I stepped in. I fended them off and your accomplice ran away. After that, you collapsed and I brought you with me. Right now, we are on our way to the null dimension. Now that I think about it, I guess I didn't ask if you even wanted to come. I was just worried about the attackers going for you again." Issei finished explaining and the girl's eyes widened. She remembered something important. What she had done was kill her master. Now she was a stray devil. "Please don't hurt me." The girl was frightened about the fact that she would now be hunted by devils. Issei knew about devil customs, but he did not know about her situation, so he was confused. "Hurt you? I wouldn't dream of it. Can you tell me what happened, please?" The girl was surprised, she thought she was going to die. Putting a little more trust into her savior, she started to explain. "Well, my name is Kuroka and I belong to a devil master. My master had a full peerage and always forced us to become strong Naya. He not only hurt us Naya, but he also hurt the family of his peerage to make sure that they would get the message. He experimented on me and had a successful test. He got my Kai to awaken and was going to test some more Naya. However, he wanted to test on my sister and the test was something more dangerous. In order to save her, I killed Naya Master. The Peerage was enraged and tried kill me and my sister Naya. My sister, being young, did not understand and was scared. That's when you stepped in and you know the rest. Finally finishing her speech, she cried. Tears dripped down her face and onto the ground. Issei could not stand seeing someone so sad. Just when he was about to approach her, she realized that her sister was missing. Shirin? Where is Shirin? Boo. My sister? Where is she? Deducing that the little girl with Kuroka was her sister, he told Kuroka what he knew. She ran away. As far as I saw, she ran into a crimson-haired girl. She is safe, I felt no killing intent from the girl. Also, as far as I know, crimson is a sign of the Grimoire. They are very affectionate to their servants, should she become one. Kuroka was a little relieved. Glad that her sister found a safe home, but worried for herself now. So she is safe. That's good. Naya. If I may ask, who are you? Issei realized that this whole time, he had not introduced himself. My apologies, I am Issei Hyoudou. I'm a pure-blooded dragon. The ones sleeping are Shiryu, my father, Elverg, my mother, and Yuna, my queen. I recently got my peerage so only have a queen. Issei introduced himself and his family in a polite way and laughed at his stupidity for not introducing himself. Nice to meet you and thank you for saving me Naya. Naya that I'm here, what will I do? I'm a stray devil and a criminal, so should I run? That is a problem. I don't think living a life on the run would be nice. As he thought of what she could do, an option popped into his mind. What if you weren't a devil anymore? Then you wouldn't be classified as strayite. As he said this, he materialized a pouch. Inside the pouch held his dragon pieces. He pulled out a rook piece and looked at her. I'm not very experienced at running a peerage, but I know that when I see someone in trouble, I need to help them. I will even help you reunite with your sister. And I will make sure to protect you and treat you way better than your last master. What do you say? Will you become my rook? Kuroka looked at the piece with wide eyes. A person she just met trusted her to bring her into his personal life. She thought that she would have to run for the rest of her life, but an opportunity was thrown right in front of her. She had some concerns though. She was afraid of being servant to another master. What if she was experimented on again? Although, he did seem to be nice and was the same age as her, or so she thought. She decided to bite the bait and took the piece. Smiling at her, Issei started to chant. I, Issei Hyoudou, give you the power of victory. From here and forever, you shall serve me as my precious rook. Join me in my peerage and family. An overwhelming feeling of warmth and love overtook Kuroka and her old pawn piece left her body. She felt a surge of power and security from the piece and she let out a small Naya. All of a sudden, like a cat in heat, she pounced on Issei and states to lick his neck up to his cheek. Issei let out a small gasp. Really? Again? As expected of a dragon. Isn't this what happened last chapter? Oi, shut it, my harem is forming. But the half-caring, half-lecherous face Issei grinned widely. Train to Kuo. Issei and his family were asleep in the train. The ride to Kuo was long because of the different dimension that they are going to. Right now, Issei was sleeping upright, sitting and was drooling a little. On his lap lay his new rook, Kuroka. She was balled up in his lap like a cat, with her ears and both of her tails out. Issei had a hand on her head and was unconsciously rubbing her head. Kuroka let out small Nayas with the rubs, enough to wake Yuna and her inner Tiamat up. Ooh, good morning Issei. With a yawn, Yuna woke up. She glanced around the train for a minute and looked for Issei. Her eyes wandered to beds, but she did not see him. Finally, after a good 30 seconds of looking, she found him outside of the main room sitting on the bench. Seeing him out made Yuna mad, but what made her even more angry was the fact that the cute feline that they picked up before they left for Kuo was laying on her Issei's lap. She got grumpy and sat next to the sleeping Issei. Figuring she needed to show the cat that there was competition, she grabbed one of his arms and lay her head on his shoulder. This allowed her to vent some of her anger and she quickly fell asleep on his shoulder. All the while, Shiryu, who woke up when Yuna left the room, was watching them with a smirk on his face, noticing that his son's harem was slowly moving forward. However, that smirk quickly turned into a serious face. Noticing that the person on his son's lap shared a distinct aura with Issei, he was able to deduce that she became a part of his peerage. This was good for Issei, as Nekashu were known to have knowledge with Kai, and that may be important in keeping Issei together with his 3 sacred gears. With a sigh, he lay back down, and the handsome man fell asleep once again. Time skip 1 hour, the trip to Kuo from the entrance of the null dimension took another hour. With a stop, the train started to announce its docking on Kuo train station. The whole family woke up about half an hour ago and were ready to depart for their new home. Shiryu had bought a house for the family to live in where they would go to school and live. The family left the terminal and walked out of the station. After waiting a few minutes, a yellow cab drove by and they boarded. Since there was only 5 of them, the cab could fit them, especially because Kuroka preferred Issei's lap. This angered Tiamat, causing her to grab onto his arm, much to his discomfort. "You guys from around here?" The cab driver was curious, as the people in his cab were all eccentric in some way. Particularly the boy and 2 girls. "Ah, no, we are from Kyoto. We are moving here for a more peaceful life in Kuo." Shiryu answered this like a professional liar. The truth was that the story he made up is a cover-up because they can't just let anyone know that they are dragons, and one is Nico. Nodding his head, he drove to the address provided by Elverg. On the way, Shiryu would make some small talk with the driver and Yuna and Kuroka would argue over Issei. "I'm the queen, so I should get his affection. Clearly Issei likes me more, even if I'm the rook. Right Issei, Naya." The two were comedically arguing over the flushed boy who was too dense to see what affection they really want. "Don't worry, both of you are my dear friends." Issei, still a child, could only give this answer to the two bishoujo who were arguing. Minutes later, they stopped in front of a building that looked like a 4-story hotel. The building was quite eloquent and massive to say the least. "Dad, did you give him the wrong address?" Issei stared at the building. He had never seen a building so nice, besides the Gremory Castle. "Welcome home, family." Everyone knew that he was rich, but they didn't know that Shiryu could just get a house so large and expensive. Not only is it 4 stories high, it also goes down 3 levels. "Nani?" Issei and Yuna could only exclaim this, while Kuroka hung from Issei's arm, only caring that Issei was with her. Elverg already knew of the situation and did not show surprise. Although, she showed exhaustion at her mate's eccentric attitude. The family walked into the main floor, which had a kitchen, a living room, an elevator, and a door outside which led to a pool. The highest floor was where Elverg and Shiryu would be sleeping. The 3rd floor was for guests and, to Issei's eyes, possible peerage members. The 2nd floor was for Issei, Yuna and Kuroka, but there were still some extra rooms. The 1st basement floor was a large bath that doubled as a hot spring. The 2nd basement level was an indoor pool, a bowling alley, and a theater room. Finally, the last floor was a full-on gym and a training room, specifically enchanted to take even the strongest of attacks. The whole family, minus Shiryu and Elverg, was blown away with the craziness of the building. The next thing they needed to do was to bring in furniture and their items from the Dragon Peerage. Luckily, Shiryu hired some devil movers to take all their stuff into their house and set all of it up. In Issei's room, he had a California king-size bed, behalf of his father, once again. As the family settled in, one thought crossed Issei's mind. Life is going to be good. Time skip, 1 year. Over the past year, Shiryu trained his son in the art of Kai manipulation. Issei, already knowing a bit of it, excelled at this topic, greatly improving of his control over his gears. Vritra was also very helpful in this, as he calmed the 2 other dragons down from complaining about their partner being the White Dragon Emperor or the Red Dragon Emperor. To be honest, Vritra didn't really care, he was just glad that he was able to see the outside world again. Right now, the brown-haired boy could be seen sitting down, in a meditating position. He had his legs crossed and his ears aimed out. In a second, he heard the rustling of some grass behind him, however, he did not react. "Okay Ddraig, let's put this to the test." Issei sent the message telepathically to his trusty dragon. At this moment, the dragon he was training with responded with a green glow of Issei's hand. "I am with you, partner." Issei waited a few moments. The wind blew and the grass rustled. Just as the wind stopped blowing, a blast of blue energy was sent towards Issei's back. The 9-year-old flipped over the blast, his gear emitting jet sound as he was launched towards the air. Issei then pulled his dragon wings out and hovered for a second. Boosted gear. Boost. Issei felt a surge of power rise within his body. He then dashed down, his wings blowing back and landed on the ground, his left hand, clad in red armor, impacted the ground. This blew all the grass downwards and caused 2 cattails to be exposed. Boost. Another 10 seconds passed and Issei felt his energy double once again. Utilizing his jet, Issei blasted forwards with blinding speeds and grabbed for the tail of the cat. However, just in time, the cat ducked downwards and laid flat on the ground. Not a second later, she jumped up and leapt up to a tree. From that tree, blue energy started to manifest and become a small orb in her hands. Sensing the danger, Issei once again used his jet and in a flash, he appeared in front of the cat. Surprised, she let out a yelp and released her blast. Not to be outdone, Issei yelled out his signature move. Dragon Shot. Red energy gathered into the palm of his gauntlet and instantly released, neutralizing the blast from the cat. Nah, Issei, that was dirty, rushing up to me like that. It got me so excited. Kuroka purred as she proceeded to leap onto Issei and snuggle into his chest when a tall man walked in. Shiryu, seeing his son and a girl on top of him instead of training, should be mad, but he was not and instead cried tears of pride. Ooh, my son has become a magnet. Sweat dropping at what his father said, he got up, not before taking Kuroka out of his lap, and approached his father. Is it time? The vague question got Shiryu back into his senses and he donned a serious face. Yes, we shall proceed to Kyoto. There, another person will help you in the arts of manipulating your powers. After years of work, you may be able to lift the seals on Albion and Vritra permanently. What Shiryu was saying is something he did in the past year. The power of the other two dragons in his body were conflicting with his Kai, so he sealed them in hopes of reducing the surges in his body. Right now, Ddraig is the only one that Issei can utilize without falling apart, as the others are sealed. From time to time, Ddraig switches with the other two, Vritra when there is a conflict between the presences of Ddraig and Albion in Issei's body, and Albion to handle cases, such as reducing power, which Ddraig cannot do. The main point of training with Ddraig first was to increase Issei's durability, making him able to withstand more power, hence the effective boost. Pack your bags, Kuroka, and get Yuna, we will be leaving soon. I will see my mother to tell her goodbye. After we make it to Kyoto, father will leave again and we will seek out my new mentor. Issei sent Kuroka off and got prepared himself. After all, they were going to Kyoto. A day of travel later. Ooh, Issei, I will miss you, my son. Especially your moments with other girls. Shiryu cried tears of sadness as he was seeing his son leave for the city with his two peerage members. As Issei walked, he glanced around, looking at the scenery that is Kyoto. Awesome. Issei, want to try some of these Yuden shops? His queen asked with a sparkle in her eye. Usually, there was no stopping Yuna when she wants something to eat, but this case was special. We can go try things out after we find my new mentor. I promise. Content with Issei's choice, Yuna nodded and grabbed one of his arms. Seeing Yuna be so courageous, Kuroka grabbed Issei's other and sent a look to Yuna. Back off, cat, he's mine. Make me, dragon girl. There were sparks flying between the girls who were in love. However, Issei was plain oblivious. How he knows about harems but has no clue about the girls around him is beyond question. Issei rounded a corner and walked towards a golden temple. He felt a powerful Kai presence in the direction of it. As he walked closer to it, the two flowers clinging to his arms, he heard soft crying. Turning to the direction of the sound, Issei peered down an alleyway. Peering down, he saw three males bullying a girl with 9 fox tails and 2 fox ears. Both of these features were orange-furred. The girl was on the ground and looked up at a katana in the hands of the three males. Ooh, what is this? The guy with the sword pulled the scabbard off and looked at the blade. It was a beautiful golden edge with a simple red hilt. On the blade, there was white etchings on it in the symbol of a dragon. That'll get us a good piece of cash. Don't mind if I take this, little lady. The guy in front laughed off the whimpers of the little fox girl and started to put the sword back. Issei felt a strong stop there. Don't make one more move. Issei stepped into the alleyway with his two flowers behind him. He walked slowly towards the group. The girl on the ground had a look of surprise. The young boy looked as if he was the age of 9, had a very strong Kai, and it was warm as well. Harder, do you need me? Just give me one boost, it should be enough. I got it covered. Boost. His gear sounded, not showing the gauntlet, boosting Issei's power by double. The man, who couldn't sense the change in his energy, laughed at him, thinking, how could this kid possibly stop us? Look kid, I'll give you one chance before you get hurt. Run off now, nothing to see. And nothing to see? Is that what you call a girl in tears? Let me reverse your offer, I'll give you one chance to leave before you get hurt. Issei said this, his energy spiking and his bangs covering his eyes. The two girls behind him could only sigh in pity of the three men who stood beepily in front of the dragon. As if a shot had been fired, Issei used his jet ability and boosted right in front of one of the grunts. The man barely had the time to blink when he was socked in the gut and went flying towards the wall. Upon impact, the man broke an arm and slouched, unconscious. Seeing their comrade on the ground, the other two got enraged. The one with the sword drew it from its sheath and held it up, although sloppy. All of a sudden, the sword got too heavy for the man and he dropped it. What the hell? Confused, he could only watch as the 9-year-old boy launched his friend into the walk with a sidekick and an elbow to the gut. Now singled out, the guy shivered in fear. How about it? Will you leave now? Issei wore a shit-eating smirk and taunted his last enemy. Around the guy's crotch area, a wet stain could be seen and the alleyway filled with the stench of urine. Disgusting. I'll make this quick, you may do the honor. The girl who had been watching the whole time stepped up and chanted a water spell and blasted the man with the water. However, when the water got close to the man, it froze and crashed into him, knocking him out. The SKK, who do they think they are, hurting you? Issei approached the girl and handed her the golden katana. The girl gratefully accepted the weapon and bowed in thanks. Thank you so much. I don't know what I would do if I lost it. As she said this, her ears drooped and she adorned a sad face. Don't be sad, cute girls like you should have a pretty smile. The young Issei said this and had a huge grin on his face. The girl lost her upset face and her cheeks reddened in response. Issei smiled and gave her ears a rub and turned. We'll be on our way now. Stay safe. What is your name again? The two Bishoujo behind him sweat dropped at immense side. Kunu, how about yours? Issei. I hope we see each other again. Jana. The two girls followed Issei out of the alleyway and turned the corner. Issei let out a sigh of relief and checked on his two peerage members. Are you two fine? They couldn't touch you, right? Naya, Issei would be a good father. I want 9 kittens, Naya. Yes, my king, we are alright. Thanks to you, we are fine. Can I get a kiss? Issei face-palmed at the answers from the two girls and sighed. He walked towards the shrine that he felt the Kai signature from before and his two girls followed him. Either way, his father told him to visit the Golden Temple anyways. They were told that they would stay at the temple with the people that owned it and be trained and educated for the next year. Issei would come back to Kuo after having a better understanding of his powers and how to keep his Kai balanced. Time skip. After a short 20-minute walk, they arrived at the steps of the shrine. The young boy excitedly ran up the steps and into the first area of the temple. The exasperated girls followed him, wondering how he had that much energy after the walk and beating up thugs. When they reached the top of the shrine, Issei and the girls stopped. They came face to face with a beautiful young woman in Maiko attire. She had orange hair and a very buxom body. She opened her eyes and spoke to the young children. So you are the young new disciples that were sent to be trained. How are you? I hope it was not a lot of trouble getting here. Let me introduce myself. I am Yasaka, the legendary 9-tailed fox. Well, at least they say I'm legendary. When she said this, orange fox ears and 9 fox tails sprouted out of her body in their appropriate places. The fox had an uncanny resemblance to a certain fox girl that the trio had met earlier. Oh, by the way, I have a daughter your age. She turned 8 about a month ago. She just got home, why don't I call her Kunu? I have some people for you to meet. From inside the shrine, a small orange-haired fox girl emerged in a Maiko attire. Hello, nice to meet you, I'm Ku. She stopped there and looked at the newcomers. Immediately, her eyes widened and she ran up to Issei and nuzzled her face into his neck. Issei, it's you. To think we meet so soon. Are you truly the one staying here? The cute fox excitedly asked, earning a grin from Issei and a nod. The other two in his peerage sweat dropped at the fact that they were left out. Don't forget us, Naya. We are members of Issei's peerage. I'm Yunajin, and I'm a queen. The cat here. Kuroka, Naya. I'm Issei's rook. The black-haired cat continued the introduction for herself and licked her hand. Devils? Isaka asked the three. No, dragons. Issei, with this answer, released his dragon wings, along with his peerage. Sugoi. Awesome, amazing. Kunu had stars in her eyes and intently looked at the wings. Kunu had always been fascinated with dragons as they have existed for a very long time and played a big part in the Great War. Ah, I see. Now, why don't we go inside, we can get your room situated and get you a shower. Afterwards, we can talk about your training over dinner. Isaka opened the door to the shrine and let the three in. Issei felt a surge of Kai from inside and his eyes were led to a katana on a stand with a beautiful sheath. The hilt was a simple red with black stripes. In other words, it was the katana from before. Issei knew that Yusaka was definitely the strong Kai he felt earlier, but this sword was interesting to him as well. I heard what you there did for my daughter. The blade is a family heirloom. Lore says that it contains the power to protect all those who are innocent, using a draconic Kai. One could say it is like a holy sword. Isaka saw the curious face on Issei and explained the sword to the three. After, they walked to a hallway where 3 rooms were situated right next to each other. On the inside was a traditional Japanese room and the walls on the inside can slide into the other wall, connecting the 3 rooms so it can be one big room. The room was high quality to say the least. Thank you for your hospitality. We will be down for dinner shortly. Issei addressed the woman with a smile on his face. Although older, Yusaka was entranced by the smile and had a red flush on her cheeks. Much to the annoyance of Kunu of course, who seemed to get ticked off. These reactions were for reasons that Issei was clueless to. After Yusaka and Kunu left them, the 3 got situated and Kuroka went into the shower first. She was quick as she was a little bad with water. Second was Issei, because he knew that Yuna would take a while, she really liked water. After their showers, they headed to the main dinner hall, guided by the cute Kunu. Here we are. Prepare for a feast. She said. The door opened and a large table was revealed. On it was a buffet of foods from all around Japan. The three dragons' eyes lit up and they attacked the buffet with hunger. After sitting down with their plates, Yusaka, who had her own plate, joined them with Kunu. Before the two peerage members could get a seat next to Issei, Kunu took his left and Yusaka took his right. The dragon and cat mumbled in annoyance and later shook it off and engaged their meal. After they were all finished and they cleaned their plates, Yusaka started to talk. So, you guys will be staying at my shrine for 1 year, right? In this year, you will be educated in basic things and in Kai. Make sure you are ready to study. Kunu will be learning with you, but don't be surprised if she is better than you. Yusaka ended her beepasis with a teasing tone and Kunu's sweat dropped. The three children nodded and Issei started to talk. That sums it up. My peerage and I will now be in your care. However, I must ask, what is your payment for doing this? Issei knew that in the world, nothing was really free. Perceptive, I see. I like you boy. I'll make it easy for you. All you three have to do is take care of the shrine and from Issei, I want 3 favors. Is that fine? Of course. Thank you for your care. Issei and his girls bowed in respect and then stood up. I'm tired, I'm going to hit the bed. See you guys tomorrow. Issei walked into his room and hit the bed. As soon as he laid down, his fatigue kicked in and he drifted to the land of dreams. Unknown to him, 2 figures climbed into the bed with him, clinged to his arms and laid their heads on his chest. This was the start of his Kai training in Kyoto. Kyoto, Yusaka's temple. It was early in the morning when Issei heard the sounds of chirping. The birds outside were singing, the sun shining. Issei yawned and tried to wipe his drool, but the 9-year-old couldn't move either of his arms. He groggily opened his eyes and glanced at the weights that were on his arms. On one arm, he saw Yuna. This did not come as a surprise, as Yuna would do this very often back at the Hyoudou household. It usually went something like a queen must always be with her king. It seemed like Tiamat rubbed off on her. The other, however, was surprising. There laid a small orange fox with 9 tails, in her Maiko attire. She had a mouth-open smile and drool falling down her face. She looked really cute, to Issei at least. In her sleep, she started to lick Issei's neck and paw at his chest. Her tails were wrapped around Issei's leg and added to the experience. Just when Issei thought he was going to go wild, it only got worse for Issei. Yuna started to nuzzle Issei's cheek and her hand was in an uncomfortable position between his legs. She grinded her body with Issei's and snuggled closer. Just as Issei was about to pass out, a figure walked into the room. The 9-year-old, black-haired cat walked into the room with a tired expression. It turned out that last night, she fell asleep right on the dinner table, due her cat habits. She decided that she would get sleep with the boy that is her king, so she walked into his room. Looking at the situation that Issei was in, she became fully awake. A tick mark appeared on the back of her head and she smiled, a little sadistically. Issei Nai, what are these two doing in your bed? The girl sent a frightening expression towards Issei, causing him to sweat. At that moment, Yuna and Kunu woke up. Moving from their positions, they sat up on the bed. This allowed Issei to move and putting all his energy into his legs, he rocketed out of his room and into the bathroom. Issei, wait. As your queen, I must shower with you. Don't run from me, my king Nai. Hey? Where did Dragon Kun go? Yuna had a face of sadness and Kuroka had an expression of annoyance. Kunu was just clueless and confused. The breakfast, half an hour later. At the table, sat 5 people. This would be Issei, Kuroka, Yuna, Kunu, and Yusaka. In this moment, Issei was feeding Kuroka, much to the annoyance of Yuna and subtly Kunu. Yusaka was looking on at the scene with a grin, knowing what all the girls knew, just not Issei. Issei was certainly not feeding Kuroka intentionally, it's just payback to make up for the morning. After Issei finished eating himself, he stood up and grabbed all the dishes, including Yusaka's. Ara. What a gentleman you are. Do not burden yourself, the maids can take the dishes for us. Being the owner of the grand shrine, there were plenty of Yaokai Maiko servants out and about. The thing is, only mystical beings or sacred gear holders could see them. Ignoring Yusaka, he insisted on taking the plate and took it to the kitchen. He washed them and set them on a rack to dry. The girls were watching Issei do the job and several thoughts crossed their minds. As expected of my king. Ooh Issei, why won't you wash me like that? Issei. Huh? Ara. He would make an excellent husband. Yuna, Kuroka, Kunu and Yusaka all had small pink tints on their cheeks, watching Issei at work. Yusaka, however, was the first to snap out of it as Issei sat back down at the table to discuss the events of the rest of the year. By the time Issei is done with his training, he should have mastery of Senjutsu and Kai. The plan was to also help Kuroka, Yuna, and Kunu, who was doing the training before anyways, to be able to use Kai properly. Kuroka would learn Senjutsu as well. Yusaka relayed this information to the members at the table, and Issei gave a childish grin, earning a smile from her. So, when will we start this training? I intend to learn Kai and Senjutsu, as I will protect everyone I love. The tint on the girl's cheeks got darker, and Yusaka's smile got wider. She then told Issei the schedule. They would start with Kai manipulation. When they got good with that, they would learn about the natural energy usage that is utilized in Senjutsu. After that, they would develop their Senjutsu, including the healing techniques and attack techniques. Kai is something that every living being can use. They just have to know the existence of the energy and learn to force the Kai into your will. Issei, from what I heard, you have already learned a bit of this, to the point of healing. This is the same with Yuna. Yusaka explained Kai and the gist of how it is used. The children all paid attention, each with a glint in their eyes. Yes, Yusaka-sensei. Issei and I were taught how to heal using Kai during our training back in our Dragon Haven. As far as I know, Kuroka has learned a little bit during our stay in Kuo, from Issei and Shiryu. Ah, I see. So all four of you are relatively in the same place in Kai. That is good, I can teach you all at once. Hi. The four youngsters rejoiced simultaneously, each with an excited smile. Yusaka sent them all on their way to meditate and empty their minds, the technique to advance your control over the energy in the soul. No doubt, they would all get this easily. Yusaka frowned, however. She was thinking about the important fact that Kunu was adopted. She did not know when to tell the young fox, and with the training, eventually Kunu would learn. This comes with the part of Senjutsu, learning about one's past is a large part. This was a painful part to her as well. When she used to train Senjutsu, she had dived into her past, revealing that Yusaka was born without the eggs needed to create heir. Even so, one day she found a nine-tailed fox wandering the streets. She was a battered-up poor soul, so she adopted her, but when she did, magic was used. This was to make it so that Kunu would not remember the fact that she was adopted. Wiping the upset expression off, she went off to train her disciples. Time skip, 4 months. In a garden, on a shrine of Kyoto, sat 4 young children. With a quick check, the 4 of them were sitting on the ground, with their eyes closed. However, when looked at closely, it could be seen that they were in fact levitating a few inches above the ground. This was one of the advancements of their training of Kai. By now, the 4 have about complete mastery of the energy. Suddenly, the 4 opened their eyes, sensing a presence. The first to open their eyes was Issei. He got up and walked towards the energy force, the other 3, Kuroka, Yuna, and Kunu, following the now 10-year-old. Yuna, who shares her birthday with Issei, was also 10. Kuroka and Kunu were both 9, however, Kuroka was to be 10 a week later. They walked up to the entrance of the garden, and they saw a majestic-looking fox, with 9 tails. The fox jumped into the air, and with a flash, the fox turned into a buxom, young woman, with fox ears and 9 tails. Yusaka was smiling at the 4, as it was time to advance their training into the knowledge of Senjutsu. Kunu and Kuroka already knew a little bit of this, as they are both Yokai-type creatures. However, Yusaka was dreading this very moment, as the second they start their training, the memories of Kunu's adoption would come rushing back at her, revealing her real origin. She knew that it was inevitable, so she no longer avoided. Senjutsu is field of techniques that stem from the gathering of one's natural energy. Users of this art blend their natural energy with the Kai within their bodies, creating multiple powers. You all will start with diving into your souls and gathering your natural energies. Begin by doing the meditation within Kai training. Delve into the depths of your energy and you will see the green potential Senjutsu energy inside of you. If you do not have this energy, you cannot use Senjutsu. Hi. The 2 students, who did not know if they could use Senjutsu, followed her command and sat on the ground. A few seconds later, one by one, they started to levitate. Issei, who was fast to search his energy, found a faint green light within his soul. Happy at the fact that he has it, he concentrated on bringing out the energy and his body started to glow an emerald light. After a while, it died down, but on his back, he had his dragon wings and tail out. On his head, sprouted 2 yellow horns on the side and his canines grew in size. His eyes sharpened and his senses enhanced. Very good Issei, the rest of you, keep looking. Yusaka praised Issei for the good job that he did and patted his head. Yuna, who searched her soul vigorously, could not find any trace of green energy within her body. Disappointed, she gave in to the fact that she simply did not have the ability to use the natural energy and sat back down on the ground. It seems I don't have the energy. She mentally sighed and looked over at the others. Kuroka had her ears and twin tails out and Kunu had her 9 tails and ears out as well. Looks like I'm the only one without the ability, huh? Do not worry, Senjutsu is powerful, but there are many ways one can get stronger. Isaka, who felt pity for the young dragon, patted her head and consoled her. Seeing Yuna sad, Issei wrapped his wings around Yuna and gave her a hug. I don't want to see Yuna sad. So let's work together to become stronger, K. He gave Yuna a toothy grin and retracted all of his dragon parts. Yuna blushed madly and inwardly thanked herself for not having the ability, as it seems that a blessing came along with it. Okay, Yuna can have the rest of the year off from training Senjutsu, but do not slack. You shall train Kai farther than the other 3 and learn martial arts, utilizing it. You 3 will come with me to begin the training. Yuna was left with a couple of Maikos to train in martial arts and Issei, Kuroka and Kunu went along with Yusaka. In the meditation room, Kyoto Shrine. Issei, Kuroka and Kunu sat, with Issei in the middle and the girls on either side. Yusaka sat in front of Issei and explained what to do. To begin, you will meditate, not using Kai, but harnessing the new natural energy that you found in your body. This energy will lead you to recall everything in your past with 100% accuracy, including the minuscule things you may not even remember now. Saying this, Yusaka started to trail off, clearly clouded with the fact that the time has come. Mother, what next? Oh, apologies. You will then feel a bursting sensation, meaning that the ability to learn Senjutsu will be added to your arsenal of power. Begin, I will check up on you within half an hour. With that, Yusaka hid her scared face and walked outside of the room. Issei, being too dense to notice and Kunu not paying attention, ignored the expression on her face. However, Kuroka noticed the face and suspicion started to arise within her. After all, she had made that face about a year and a half ago. Ignoring her suspicions, she started the process that Kunu and Issei had begun not too long ago. In Issei's mind. Standing in a white plane, Issei noticed a film screen, almost as if a projector was playing a movie. On the ground, near the screen, there sat a couch, with enough spots to fit 6. On instinct, he sat down on the couch. The second he did, 3 other beings towered around the couch. It's been a while, young one. Indeed, I hope you haven't forgotten me and Vritra. Well, actually, forget Vritra please. Hey. No need to be so mean to me, I just want to live a peaceful life. With bishoujos of course. Issei sweat dropped it of Vritra and Albion. For some reason, it seemed like Albion and Ddraig got along just fine, but Vritra just could not get along with the 2 heavenly dragons. Most likely due to his pervertedness. Up front, the screen started playing, from the very beginning, his life. He recalled the training he did, the fun he had in Kuo Elementary, and his past 4 months. Overall, his life was relatively peaceful for the time being. There were a few red zones, such as when he was first training in Kai with his father, his body started to collapse and Shiryu had to knock his own son out. Looking at it now, Issei though it was quite comedic. After recalling the reason for this training, he felt a powerful burst coming from his body. His tail, wings and horns once again sprouted. His eyes turned sharper and his canines did the same. He became a half-dragon again, not that he minded, and he started to glow green. The real world. Issei stopped floating and looked at his body. The changes made to him remained and Issei felt in good shape. Suddenly, he got tired and his enhancements dropped. He sat down and took a rest. Issei looked towards Kunu, who was in the middle of connecting with her memories. I wonder what's happening in the other 2's heads. In Kuroka's mind. In a similar fashion, a couch appeared from nowhere and showed up in front of a theater screen. She sat down and watched the memories. In the beginning, she was born into a small family of Nekashu. She was an only child for 1 peaceful year when something else happened. She was given a baby sister. Her family called her Shirin and she was a white cat, unlike her, who was a black cat, symbolizing bad luck. The next 4 years had gone by fun for her until a certain event took place. On a dark night, their village was attacked, killing off most of the Nekashu, including her mother and father. Stranded, they struggled to live for a week. At this point, Kuroka was in tears. One day, a devil came to the wrecked village and saw a black and a white Nekashu. Knowing their power, he made Kuroka into a pawn and tried to make Shirin into a pawn as well, but Kuroka said that she would not allow it. Knowing that a servant has to follow a master, she did not want that fate for her little sister if it was a bad master. True to her suspicions, the master was quite bad. In a blink of an eye, 3 years had gone by, each day spent training and plotting her escape from her master. The playful Kuroka was hidden and Shirin was kept safe in a small house provided by the devil's family. The day came when she killed her master and Shirin was there to witness it. She was saved by Issei, but Shirin ran away, scared of her sister's newfound power. To her, the rest is history. She shed one last tear, but her face adorned a smile. She was glad things went the way it did, as she had Issei now and would not trade another chance for him. The second the tear dropped to her open palm, a bursting sensation appeared around her and she felt empowered. The real world. Kuroka opened her eyes and looked at herself. She had her cat ears and twin tails out and oddly enough, the tails were wrapped around Issei's hand and she was on his lap. She turned around and looked at Issei and saw him smiling back at her. It seemed as if he saw the tears and gave Kuroka a hug. The only one remaining now was Kunu. It seemed as if she was glowing green and they waited in anticipation. Kunu's mind. Kunu sat at the couch and she watched the screen, waiting for it to start. As if suddenly plugged in, the screen started to show memories, which Kunu had small memories of. One was of her sitting in a garden, with flowers around her. The strange thing was, she was in tattered clothes, almost as if she was an orphan. The next showed her in front of Yusaka, who had a smile on her face. Kunu felt a sense of dread, and then the next memory showed. It was her in an adoption office, with Yusaka signing papers. Kunu knew what it meant, and her eyes widened. The rest of her memories were like how she remembered them, as if Yusaka was her real mother. She felt a bursting sensation awaken and opened her eyes. The real world. She stood with a green glow and her 9 tails and ears out. She looked around the room, her eyes moist, and saw 2 figures looking at her worriedly. She recognized Issei and rushed over to him, pulling him into a hug, tears drenching his shirt. Issei knew that whatever Kunu saw hurt her. At the moment, Yusaka walked in and saw the scene. She immediately knew what it meant and her eyes started to moisten. "Kunu honey? Why? Kunu started weakly, but then let out a shout. "Why didn't you tell me? To think that I am adopted. Why? What happened to my real parents? Who am I really?" She spouted out multiple questions, none of which were answered. She rushed out of the room and the only thing Yusaka could do was slump onto her knees. She had expected this, but never anticipated that it would be so hurtful. With his wings out, Issei walked up to the woman and gave her a hug. With a maturity beyond his years, he soothed the woman. "Don't worry. I will get her back and you will talk it out. I can't stand to see the ones I care about in pain. So stop crying, you aren't as pretty when you're crying." Issei spoke in a soothing voice, despite the pitch of his sound, and walked out of the door. Minutes later, Issei found the young fox sitting in the garden that was in her memories. Noticing him, Kunu asked him a question. "What would you do if you found out that someone you loved was not who you thought they were?" Issei did not hesitate to answer to question and calmly responded. "I would not care if they were not who I thought they were. If I cared about them, it wouldn't matter who they really are, I would have to accept them for who they are. If someone starts to treat someone else differently because of a revelation, then they never loved them." He finished with a strong look and approached Kunu and placed his wings around her. "Don't worry. Even if you're not the daughter of the legendary 9-tailed fox, I will keep on caring for you. Nothing will stop me from coming to your need and lending you a hand. Come on. Let's go back and talk with your mother. Because, if she cares for you, no one can say you aren't her child." Finished with his speech, he got up, Kunu following him with a quiet okay. They walked back into the room, with Kunu in a better mood. Kuroka and Yusaka could only wonder what Issei said to make her happy so much faster. Yusaka immediately stood up and embraced her daughter. "I'm sorry. Sorry for not telling you. I love you, so please don't be mad at me." Kunu said nothing and embraced her mother with a smile. She remembered what Issei said and blushed a little. Satisfied with how things turned out, Issei grinned and Kuroka latched onto his arm. They could only hope the rest of their training could go smoothly. Time skip 8 months later. At this point, all 4 of the students were sufficient at martial arts, Kai, and Senjutsu. The one who excelled the most at martial arts was Yuna, whereas Kuroka was the one who was ahead at Senjutsu. Kunu, by far, had the strongest Kai, being a 9-tailed fox, and Issei was decent at all of them. At the moment, Issei and Kunu, who is now 10, are out doing some chores for Yusaka. Kuroka decided to sleep in, and Yuna was busy with her martial arts. Issei, who held the groceries, was walking side by side with Kunu, who latched onto his left arm. At this point, Issei noticed the extra affections that girls around him gave, and he did not know why. Most of the time, Ddraig and Albion say it is because he is a dragon, while Vritra says it's because he is a pimp. Issei doesn't even know what a pimp is. They walked towards the shrine, and at the entrance, Issei saw a sight he didn't expect to see. Standing at the foot of the landmark was a pretty crimson-haired girl with a couple of people behind her. One was a small white-haired girl with a cat pin and the other was a blonde-haired male, a little shorter than Issei. Alongside the girl was a small boy who was for some reason wearing a girl's attire. Issei knew of the crimson color, it was a sign of the Grimoire, a strong devil family and devil society. Issei assumed that they were in Kyoto on a trip as there was no hostility coming from them. Now unattached from Kunu, Issei approached the group with a smile. "Hello there, are you here to visit the shrine?" Issei asked this while using his kai to hide his powerful aura. Oh yes, we are here to pay our respects to the shrine of the nine-tailed fox. I'm Riaz. Riaz Gremory. These three here are my friends. Introduce yourself." "Hi ma." The blonde-haired boy started, then stopped, as if something was wrong. A second later, he continued. "Hello, I am Kibayudo, pleased to meet you." He was pretty gentlemanly, and he shook Issei's hand. "Kaneko. Taoju Kaneko." The small, white-haired girl, now known as Kaneko, nodded, with an expressionless face. I am Gasper Vladi. Pleased to make your acquaintance." With a frightened expression, the small boy hid behind Kiba and shivered. "I'm Issei, hi to Issei. You may call me Issei, or whatever you like. This is my good friend Kunu. She lives in this shrine, where I am staying. I wouldn't mind giving you for a tour." Issei introduced himself, and Kunu gave a wave. Riaz, who seemed happy at the new friend, accepted his offer, and they went up the stairs, Issei and Kunu leading the way. "Ah, how old are you all?" "Just curious. I'm already 10, you know." Issei started to act a bit childish, which he didn't hesitate to show, as he was having fun. "Oh, no problem, I am 11. I'm 10 as well." "9. Eek. I'm 9. Riaz, Kiba, Kaneko, and Gasper responded, each in their own way. Leading up the stairs, Issei sent a small senjutsu signal to Kuroka, letting her know that he is home and that he has devil visitors, so she should hide her presence. They made it to the doorstep and Kunu unlocked the door. "Oh no, is it really okay for us to come in?" Of course, I'm sure that Kunu and the nine-tailed fox wouldn't mind. With that, the group of 6 walked into the house. As soon as they stepped in, Ria's group felt a powerful energy from the kitchen. As if on a K, Yasaka walked out of the door and showed herself. However, she forgot to hide her tails and ears, revealing who she is. Eyes widening to the sight, the devils quickly bowed to the fox and dared not to speak. Riaz took a glance and looked at Issei and Kunu, as if asking them why they are not bowing. "Oh no, I'm pretty sure that the legendary nine-tailed fox doesn't really care about being the queen of Yokai in Kyoto." Kunu sort of chuckled this and let out her tails and ears. Riaz and her group were shocked, but they were even more surprised that Issei acted like normal and grinned to the people in front of him. "Yeah, sorry for not mentioning this, but I knew you 4 were devils this whole time. Truth is, I am staying here to train along with my peerage and then head back home. In fact, I am planning to leave tomorrow. I noticed you 4 and decided to bring you here because I was sure you came here to meet the queen." Issei scratched the back of his head and gave off an embarrassed laugh. "Peerage? Are you a devil?" "No, Gremory-sama. I am a dragon. Right now, I have my queen and 1 rook spot filled. In case you're wondering, I have 24 pieces, 8 of which are mutation." Issei said this with a proud expression. He looked at the hallway that lead to his room and felt 2 people coming this way. "Here they come, guys, greet our new friends." Out of the hallway, a black-haired Bishoujo with a pair of shorts and one of Issei's shirts came out and a blue-haired Bishoujo wearing an attire that consists of mainly blue. "This is Yuna, my queen, and Kuroka, my rook." Issei could see the Kaneko twitch slightly and he suspected that she was catching on to Kuroka, but he hit her kai, making it impossible to tell. "Nice to meet you," as he said, "I'm his queen. And I'm his rook." Yuna gave a bow and Kuroka made a peace sign, with a wink. "I guess we can let our guard down, as you know, I'm a devil. Riaz Gremory is the name you will hear as the one who will become the rating game champion." Riaz jumped up, extended her wings, and determinedly clenched her fists. She fit the description of royalty, but Issei mainly thought she was cute. "Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am Kibayudo, Riaz Gremory's knight at your service." "Rook. Be bishop." The devils reintroduced themselves, while Riaz shook hands with Issei. At that moment, a boom could be heard outside of the shrine. The explosion could be heard from nearby. The quake it created could be felt through the vibrations through the ground. The group glanced around, all giving an affirmative nod. Yasaka, Issei, Riaz, and the peerage members ran outside of the shrine, looking towards the sky. They could see smoke in the distance, signifying the location of the blast. The 2 peerages extended their wings, dragon and devil, respectively. Issei put his hand on Kunu's shoulder and spoke. "Go back to the temple. Help Yasaka-san create a barrier and hide there. You will be safe. I will put a draconic seal on the shrine, you will be safe. Now." Kunu nodded, knowing that she could do nothing to stop the dragon in front of her. She led her mother by the hand, back into the house and put up a barrier. Seeing that they were safe, Issei nodded at his peerage and looked to Riaz. "Gremory-sama, you take the left. My peerage and I will go through the right, it's better that we do this. When I say to clear out, do it immediately. Otherwise, you will be in danger." Issei's tone carried an authority that even Ria's could not disobey. She slowly nodded, awed at the seemingly abrupt change in mental age. A second ago, he was bragging about his mutation pieces, now he was commanding like a military general. The two groups took off at blinding speeds toward the smoke, each taking a different flank. When they made it, they stopped, hovering above the smoke. Hiroka, use your senjutsu to see the count of enemies. Yuna, clear the smoke with a wind spell please. Hi. The two carried out their orders and reported to Issei. The fire and smoke had been put out by Yuna and her spells. On the other side, Issei could see the Gremmery, waiting to give them the signal. There seems to be two of them. Fallen angels it seems. There are also three others, one that is also a fallen. The smallest one is hard to tell, and one is human. We have to clear out the innocents. Hiroka reported her findings, using the detection skill that came with senjutsu training. After widening the spread of one's natural energy, they can sense the living energy in anyone around them. Issei made a concerned face, he was going to have to clear the innocents to so his signature move, Dragon Shot. Ddraig. Give me 6 boosts. We can hold them for a minute. I got it partner. Be careful, I sense powerful energy from one of them. Boost. The first boost was given to Issei, and he called out to the Gremmery. There are 3 civilians in the area. We need them in safety before I can finish them. You have 45 seconds. The Gremmery sprung into action, and with speed, they rushed into the now cleared smoke. Yuna Hiroka, I sense 4 others above us. Hold them off while I charge my boosts. Boost. The 2 girls knew what to do and got into battle positions. Hiroka had Kai traveling through her fists and feet. Yuna was surrounded with water, creating a magical barrier so she can support Hiroka. Boost. This was the 3rd boost, meaning that they only had 30 seconds. He peered into the battle below and saw that Ria's Peerage was struggling. He grit his teeth and dove below. One of the enemies had a golden sword that gave off a holy energy. Specifically a dragon-slaying energy. This sent a shiver down Issei's back and he almost hesitated. Wiping off the dread, Issei landed on the ground with a thump. His arm transformed into that of a red gauntlet and he got another boost. Boost. With a blinding speed, due to the boosts, he rushed in and sucker punched the one without the sword. However, what he didn't see is the fact that a spear that was made of light was sent in the direction of one of the 3 innocents. The spear pierced through the chest of the woman and she collapsed to the ground. The human disintegrated due to the energy of the spear and soon, there was nothing left of her. The smallest of the now 2 innocents left gave off a deafening scream and sobbed at the death. Issei assumed that this was her mother. At this point, Issei felt nauseous. He never killed before or witnessed brutal death and it made him sick to the stomach. Boost. The 5th boost came to Issei and his power allowed him to use his jet to grab the girl, right as a spear of light pierced the ground that she was sitting on. The Gremmery grabbed the older man, who was shedding tears and yelling things like let me at them. I'll kill them. Kill them. Issei felt the girl in his arms pass out and then heard a voice in his head. Here it is partner. Give it your best shot. Right. Boost. Issei felt the energy enter his body and he flew into the air. Everyone behind me. Now. Issei screamed with a few tears, he was still grieving the death of the innocent woman. This was not something that a young child should have to go through and he could already imagine the pain that the girl was going through. Dragon shot. The large red energy gathered to his gauntlet and he heard his gauntlet sound. Explosion. The beam launched forward, clearing the distance between the fallen angels and blasted them. The blast disintegrated them, or so he thought. The one with the golden sword lived, being able to use the dragon-slaying energy to block a bit of it. However, his left eye was hit, blasting it, rendering it useless. The fallen with the sword could be seen in the center of the large crater, still standing. In an instant, a yellow light surrounded him and he teleported. Immediately, he could feel the Kai and the fallen transfer to a very specific location. Yusaka's temple. The 4 fallens that attacked Hiroka and Yuna had been dispatched and knocked out. Within a minute, the situation went from bad to worse. Minutes later, at the shrine. Inside of the meditation room, resided 2 orange-haired foxes, each with their own version of a worried expression. Kunu was constantly prancing back and forth around the room, waiting for Issei's return. She didn't really understand how Issei could go into battle without hesitation. Yusaka was sitting down, mostly concentrating on keeping the barrier stable. The young mother held a frown on her face, wishing for Issei's return. The barrier was made of energy signatures of the foxes, but held the energy of draconic descent. In short, the shrine was a blend of kitsune and dragon energy. The blend of the energy created a shield of almost impenetrable defense. Keyword, almost. But Issei, a general discomfort could be felt, especially at the death of the human woman. Whoever she was, really meant a lot to the raven-haired girl, who was now crying into her palms. She was slouched, and sounds of sobbing could be heard. Whilst usually being dense, Issei could deduce what significance the deceased woman held to the girl. The pain signatures that he felt from the aura of the Bishoujo was a feeling of extreme loss, signal a maternal figure. Emotions aside, the kai coming off from the girl showed that she was clearly not human and shared a scent of that similar to the man who was fuming in agony. Issei could only watch as the poor man lost what seemed like a mate. In a dragon's eyes, losing a mate would turn a dragon to despair. The results would usually end in suicide or worse, becoming an evil dragon. The man, black feathered wings sprouted, flew into the air and what looked like a spell, disappeared. Leaving the poor, lone girl all alone. Issei pitied the now assumed half-fallen and he walked up to her. Issei gave off a draconic pressure and a combination of senjutsu. This visibly relaxed the girl, though clearly she was not over the event. Issei glanced around, his loyal peerage behind him. Riaz and her group were calling the devil cleanup crew to fix the mess made by the Red Dragon Emperor. The crater was the only thing left, aside from smoke that signified that a battle took place. Looking at the girl, who was now embraced in Issei's grip, Issei steeled his resolve. Looking at the girl's aura, he could tell that she was not a suitable rook, nor a knight. This left him between the choices of pawn, bishop, or one of his mutated extra queen pieces. What is your name? I can't think about how you must feel right now, but I can't stand her and see you alone. So please, would you tell me? Issei realized that he never asked the Bishoujo for her name, and mind his manners, he got ready to ask things of her. Imijima Keno. A stoic reply came from the depressed girl. Although relaxed, she seemed haunted, as if the scene played in her head continuously. Hyoudou Issei. I'm a dragon, and the two behind me are Yunajin and Kuroka. They are members of my peerage. Do you have somewhere to go now? If not, you could stay with me and my friends for a while, before you can get back on her feet. If not, you are welcome to leave. I'm not going to force you into my peerage. The four over there are devils. As if on cue, the devils appeared in front of the girl. After the given introductions, to which the girl barely reacted to, Issei got ready to ask her. Do you wish to come with them instead? No. Please take me with you. Possibly due to his relaxing aura, the girl felt that she was safe with the dragon. Furthermore, the girl added to her statement, which surprised the members of the two peerages. I would like to join your peerage. Please don't ask why, I promise I will be worth it. I beg oh. She was cut off from her pleading by Issei. Stop. This saddened the girl, thinking she had done something wrong. In her eyes, she was already a screw-up and either wished to assimilate to difference or die. Lift your head. If you are to be a dragon, you must hold your head high. We're creatures of pride after all. Either way, even if you had not begged, I would always let you stay with me. As long as you need a shoulder to lean on, a crutch to utilize, I will be there for you. Issei beamed at the girl, trying to lift her spirits. The dragon gave off an aura of comfort and care, and Akeno could not help but bring a small smile to her face. She finally thought that once, even if only once, she had a chance to live once again. The effect of Issei's smile reached the other girls in the area as well. Riaz had a pink tinge on her cheeks, oddly thinking of a situation where the knight and dragon were one and the same, and she was a princess. Yuna was a little agitated at the sight of Issei flirting with another girl, but she couldn't help but blush and smile. After all, the Issei that she grew up with and fell in love with was only showing her exactly what to love about him. Kuroka purred and her cheeks were that of the color of Issei's gauntlet, which still rested at his arm. She looked like a cat in heart, the charms by Issei had served as a catalyst for her carnal desires. Kaneko held a mostly stoic face, but like her sister, who she didn't know was her sister, she also purred a little with flushed cheeks. It was much more subtle, and she could hide it quite well. However, I kinda forgot my pieces at home. Issei was smacked on the back of his head, and Yuna yelled at him for his incompetence. The Grimoires could only watch as the humorous scene was displayed. After Kuroka got a hold of Yuna, they started their way back to the shrine. Issei was excited to get a new member after all. All of them let their wings out, but Akeno did not. She was hesitant to do so, and as of the moment, she wished for nothing but to get rid of her wings. Feeling the hesitance, Issei offered to give her a lift, in which she nodded. What she wasn't expecting was getting lifted with one arm underneath the pit of her legs, the other around her back, as Issei executed the princess carry to the now subtly blushing Akeno. For some reason, she couldn't help but like being dominated a little or taken by surprise. This angered the girls, for some reason even Riaz and Kaneko. Could this be the natural attraction of dragons? At the shrine. Isaka patiently waited, alongside her adopted kin, feeling the presence of the draconic aura. It felt comforting, caring, and loving. It brought a warmth that even humans could probably sense. This visibly was the reason for the relaxed expression of Kunu, who had not steeled her magic to the point of being able to resist the power. As Yusaka was taking in the power, she felt the aura get disturbed. As if the barrier was sliced, she felt vulnerable. Kunu felt it as well, she got up and took an alert stance. After an eerie silence, an explosion shook the ground and the door to the meditation room burst open. Yusaka barely had the time to put up a barrier before the door came crashing. The energy felt like light and a beam was shot at the shield, confirming her suspicions. By the entrance stood man. He was relatively tall, had black hair and a handsome facial structure. The thing that stood out though was the pair of wings behind his back. Embedded with dark feathers, the wings gave off a scary vibe. In his left hand, he held a golden blade. It gave off an energy that was opposite to the draconic aura. It was frightening, depressing, and cold at the same time. "What do you want?" The simple question was answered with a simple answer. "I want foxfire. You will bring forth the flames and she'll work for me afterwards." The dark-haired man looked at the two women, the young-looking girl shivering. He could also see the defiance in the older female's eyes. Knowing that she would not back down unless provided with reason, he sighed. The barrier was still up, so he would have to do something about that. He cut into the barrier with his holy sword. Luckily for him, the shield was infused by a draconic presence. The sword cut into the shield and the barrier was cut like butter. He walked closer to the girls, giving off high killing intent. It was enough to make them both freeze for a second. As if a flash, the man grabbed the younger fox and held her by the throat. He brought the sword towards her chest and aimed it at her heart. "If you're not going to give it to me, I'll have to take it by force." With a cry, the man stabbed Kunu through the heart. Yusaka watched in terror as her beloved daughter was killed before her eyes. She screamed and let out extreme heat. The wood around her was starting to ignite and her expression could only be described as feral. With an explosion, she sent off foxfire in a multitude of directions, burning off the excess wood and disintegrating the flammable objects around her. The man got out a spherical device and absorbed the flames into the object. After getting his fill on fire, he then went to subdue the woman so he could take her with him. Before he could though, a blast of ice hit the ground in front of him. He looked up to see creatures of the night and monsters of lore. Devils and dragons to be specific. He was irritated at the fact that the brats from before had got in his way and he didn't have time to deal with them. He quickly teleported away, leaving the enraged Yusaka. Issei and his peerage landed along with Ria's and hers. Issei looked terrified at the scene before him and dropped to his knees at the dead Kunu. There was a pool of blood surrounding her and a stab right through her chest. Issei thought that all was lost. He felt hopeless, but his peerage thought otherwise. Of course they were scared of the ruin, but they had a clear mind. "Issei, you can revive her. Quick." With newfound determination, Issei quickly called for his pieces. The dragon pieces floated to his hands and he accepted them. At the moment, he was in a hurry to save Kunu, so he didn't realize that a wave of fire was in line with his position. The fire grazed his left arm, which still held his boosted gear. The green gem glowed and gems started to absorb the energy. As if all the wind had been sent out of his lungs, Issei gasped for breath. The mythical flame was being absorbed by Issei's body, supercharging his energy. After a couple of seconds, he began to breathe. Issei gathered his pieces and took a look. He had 3 mutation queens, 4 bishop pieces, 2 mutated, 4 knight pieces, 2 mutated, 2 rooks, 1 mutated, and 8 pawns. Issei grabbed his pawn pieces and put 3 into the hole in her chest. Issei began the chant. "I, Issei Hyoudou, give you the power of victory. From here and forever, you shall serve me as my precious pawn. Join me in my peerage and family." The 3 pawns gave off a bright glow and then they died out. Where the hole once was, had flesh and skin. Issei could see the rise and fall of her chest and Issei started to cry. Seeing one of his closest friends get murdered hurt him. He picked up Kunu and put her into the corner of the room where the flames did not reach. Issei walked towards the flames, somehow not getting burns. This was likely due to his dragon heritage or the fact that his body absorbed the flames. In the center of the flames was Yusaka, slouched over, wailing with sadness. He crouched down and released his draconic aura for the last time. The comfort could be felt throughout the city and at the epitome of it stood Issei. He was exhausted, he had never exerted so much energy for a battle. He reached down and hugged the woman the best he could. After all, he was only 11. "She's okay. Kunu is alive and well. So please don't cry. I will be here for all of it. Kunu is safe." Issei's voice got higher pitched as he ended his sentence. In a long while, he shed tears. The pent-up sadness from the day's events broke through the dam, sending tears rolling down his face. Yusaka felt the comfort from the boy and looked up. The sadness in her eyes slowly faded away, the fire dispersing. She relaxed into the embrace and saw that Kunu's signature was back and here to stay. She began wailing now, out of happiness, and the rest of the present members watched the scene. Yuna was crying, and Kuroka barely hid her tears. Ria's had subtle tears rolling down her cheeks, and Kiba had a slightly angry face. Kaneko was terrified, but hid it. Gasper turned into a bat and hid, he was the most scared. The day ended with the group in sorrow. The next day. Rias called the cleanup crew, and the shrine was fixed to the point where no difference before and after were found. Rias and her peerage left after a heartfelt goodbye, where Rias gave Issei a kiss on the cheek. It was short, but enough to anger his peerage, including Akeno, who has yet to be reincarnated. Kunu woke up that morning to say goodbye to Rias and was there to witness the scene as well. On her way back, Rias could feel subtle killing intent from the others in Issei's peerage, to which she could only sweat drop. Issei and his peerage returned to the shrine, with Kunu getting help from Kuroka and Yusaka. Akeno was attached to Issei, a hand on the hem of his shirt, eyes bore into Yuna's head. Yuna was hanging on Issei's arm, which pushed up against her developing chest. To say the least, Issei was exasperated. When they arrived at home, everyone got to work, packing their items in their suitcases. Akeno didn't have much to pack, so she was sitting on the couch, waiting for her savior to come to her. She needed to be reincarnated after all. A half an hour later, the peerage was ready for departure. Issei got out his pieces and looked to Akeno for final confirmation. She gave a small nod, and the corners of her lips tugged upwards. First he got out a bishop piece. Considering her magic potential was quite high, he decided a bishop would be perfect. A rook was out of question, and Issei's 5 leftover pawns did not work the first time tested. He pushed a bishop piece into her developing chest and chanted the reincarnation. I, Issei Hyoudou, give you the power of victory. From here and forever, you shall serve me as my precious bishop. Join me in my peerage and family. The bishop piece glowed, and the piece was absorbed. However, the piece got ejected, signifying that the piece got rejected. Issei frowned at this. He had one more option left. It was one of his extra pieces, a mutated queen. Alright Akeno. That last chance. I know it will work. So don't be upset any longer. Issei pushed the queen piece to her body and began the chant. I, Issei Hyoudou, give you the power of victory. From here and forever, you shall serve me as my precious queen. Join me in my peerage and family. The glow this time was more intense, and the piece went in. Not a second later, wings sprouted out from her back. One of them was covered in scales, the other, black feathers. Her reincarnation had been successful. Akeno rushed towards Issei and gave him a big hug. She subconsciously rubbed her thighs against his and wrapped her legs around his. Her aura had been changed into a draconic type, and her instincts to find a powerful mate kicked in. To be loved and protected was what she searched for, but she looked for a bit of dominance as well. She found this in Issei, and hence, was attracted to him, as well as more aggressive. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Her mumbles became excited yells, and she buried her head in his chest. Being hugged by the Bishoujo made his cheeks flush, much to the annoyance of his peerage. Yusaka smiled, with a hint of jealousy. Steadily, the life of the peerage was moving on, with one goal in mind. To assure victory for the less fortunate. At the train station. An hour had passed since Akeno's reincarnation, and an aggressive side of her clearly displayed to the jealous members at the station. While Issei was surrounded by girls, the men around them looked bewildered. Somehow, a 10-year-old child had better luck with women than them. Of course, Issei was a little too dense to notice the glares or the affections of the girls. He honestly thought it was just normal for the peerage members to be friendly. There was about 10 minutes on the train was to dock at the station, and Yusaka was sad. She felt an unparalleled attraction to the young male, as if she was being beckoned to join them. She knew that Issei likely did not have the magical energy to reincarnate another being, but she did have an idea. The light went off in her head as she remembered the deal that Issei made with her earlier in their stay. Nah, Issei. Do you remember the promise we made a year ago? I want to cash in 2 of the 3. Oh, of course. I promised you 3 favors, didn't I? Alright, ask ahead. Yusaka steeled her resolve, only to flare up, her cheeks reaching a pink hue. Please take care of Kunu. I always wanted her to go to a nice town where she could make new friends. Also, make sure to not get too aggressive with her. The girls in his peerage, particularly Kunu, flared up to the request. Issei didn't understand the last part, but he assured his first favor. Ah, alright. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, but I'll try my best. For your second favor. Yusaka did not hesitate and immediately spit out a request. Please make me your familiar. Issei was surprised at the outburst and more so at the request. To take the legendary fox as his familiar. Issei was educated on familiars in his stay at Kyoto, mainly the fact that almost any creature can become a familiar. Most familiars come from a mysterious place called the Familiar Forest, but they can be picked up about anywhere. Are you sure? Issei could not believe his luck. Within the span of 24 hours, he had gotten 2 new family members and was about to get a third. Yusaka did not hesitate and nodded, sealing the deal. Issei saw the assurance in her eyes and begun the spell. For dragons, it was a different thing to bind a familiar. They would have to imprint their insignia onto the familiar's bodies using magic. Issei crafted a white dragon with a dark underside, fully out of magic. It had a hint of crimson and slowly drifted towards the body of the woman. The dragon latched itself on her neck and somewhat crawled on her body until it found a good spot. After a while, it rested at the top of her left breast, making it look like a white tattoo. Nodding at his handiwork, Issei had fully contracted Yasaka as a familiar. There, all done. Are you sure you don't want to use the last favor? Yasaka blushed at the fact that Issei asked this, the last one was to be saved for later. She would use it for a more personal use. No, it's fine. However, your dragon seems to choose quite a peculiar place to rest on. Yufufufu. The girls looked annoyed and Akeno quickly shoved Issei's arm in between her growing cleavage. For an 11-year-old, Akeno already had a sizable bust, larger than everyone's, other than Yasaka's of course. Kuroka did not fall behind and latched on his back, while Yuna took his other arm. Kunu felt left behind and jumped onto Issei's shoulders, knocking everyone onto the ground. It was going to be a long ride for sure. On the train. The train for Kuo arrived half an hour ago. Seeing Yasaka off was upsetting, but now that Issei was contracted with her, she could be summoned at any time. It was about an hour or so until their stop to Kuo and Issei and his peerage found a good empty car to sit in. Along the way, a white-haired girl happened to board the train and into the stop. She didn't look like she was from Kyoto, so Issei decided to introduce himself. After all, he was quite the curious one. Using magic, Issei could speak in any language and the girl would immediately understand him. Hello there, I noticed that you weren't from around here. I thought that I would introduce myself. I'm Issei Hyoudou. What about you? Are you headed to Kuo as well? The girl looked shocked for a brief moment, then composed herself. Something was off about his question though. I'm Roswis. I'm from a place called Valhalla. It's a Nordic region in Europe. By any chance did you say Kuo? Issei looked confused for a second. He did say Kuo, right? Yeah, I said Kuo. What's the matter? Oh no, I think you may have boarded the wrong train. This train is for Valhalla, as in the one with the Nordic gods. Issei had a blank face. The rest of his peerage were severely confused. Did they get on the wrong train? Valhalla is certainly not the place they wanted to go. And? So how was this story? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this story with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.